Amok to you. High above, I actually am kind of above the land. So in my closet, my COVID closet, you found me here doing my Emil Amok's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. Thank you for joining me. We're just going to do a couple more freebies out on YouTube, and then we're going on Patreon. I mean this. I want you to join me on Patreon where we're freer to talk. We can even swear if we want. Although I'm not a big swearer. I know a lot of people. I mean, some people say, "Oh, it's got to be clean. It can't be dirty," and dirty isn't like sexual in nature. It's just people swear. They say cuss words. Like instead of saying grab them by the P word, they actually say the P word. And you get by the censors, you get by all the algorithms that try to say, "Oh, that's bad." That's why I'm going to Patreon. I mean, it's not a money grab. money grab, Emil? No. Patreon, patreon.com/Emil Amok. Go there, and that's where I'm going to put the column, and that's where I'm going to put everything that's mine there, that's online, and you can come support it. You can come be part of the tribe. When here's something coming November 4th, a day before the election, a day before we're all going to schedule to vote, right? You're going to vote. I'm going to be performing at the Marsh in San Francisco. It's at 7:30. That's when the show starts. 7:30 or 7 p.m. Oh, God, I should know that. I'll get it right. I'll put that on Patreon. I'll put it on my amok.com as well. But I'm going to be at the Marsh November 4th. And so we got a lot to talk about. I mean, I'm going to do a portion of my Emil Amok Lost NPR host, the vegan trans dad part. But I got to get there by talking about the election. And with a day before, on election eve, it's the election eve special, November 4th. So please, tickets are on sale. Go to the Marsh, marsh.org. I believe it's a San Francisco Marsh on Valencia Street. I should be better prepared. But it's the Monday night Marsh. I'm up there with two other people telling stories. And it's, generally speaking, a good time is had by all. Seriously. And I don't get anything out of it except the joy of being there with you live. And I haven't been live in San Francisco for some time. So come down to the Marsh, November 4th. I'll talk a little about the election, but talk more about about being a trans dad. And you say, Emil, trans dad, is there something you're not telling us? You're going to have to see. You're going to have to come by and check it out yourself. That's at the Marsh in San Francisco on Valencia Street. Valencia and 22nd, between 22nd and 21st. And it's on Monday, the November 4th, 7:30, I believe. Double check that. Could be 7. Tickets, you can go to themarsh.com. There's sliding scale. Marsh, or is it marsh.org? Darn it, I'm going to have to check. Marsh.org. Yeah, the Marsh. Excuse me. Themarsh.org. Go to themarsh.org and check that out. And so there. I might as well. Let me see the Monday night. Yeah, Monday Night Marsh. Themarsh.org. That's where you go to find out. And let's see if I can maneuver this page. I do not, let's see, themarsh.org. Well, I get a picture. Well, let's just go to themarsh.org. See what we get. Yeah, themarsh.org. If you go to themarsh.org, you will see me talking, let's see, the Monday Night Marsh. Works in progress. Mondays at 7. Mondays at 7, themarsh.org. And let's see if they talk about me. In person, let's see. I think they don't have my picture. Emil Amok had 2 daughters until he had a third. What to do when you lose a son to the culture wars? And so we'll be talking about that. Oh, they haven't updated it. They didn't put my picture in there. Oh, well, I'll be there. Anyway, get your tickets there. And like I said, it's just an opportunity to see a current bit of work that I'm doing, that I'm touring on my shows at the Fringes. And it would be great to see you there. It's my own neighborhood, my old neighborhood. I used to go to school up the block, Edison Elementary, way back when. My father, who I talk about in my piece, used to pick me up from school, and we would walk up Guerrero, which is really kind of a hill between 22nd and 21st. Now that I think about that hill, I wonder, how did he get up that hill? But then once he got up to 21st, it was all downhill from 21st. So my childhood, I explore, and then I talk about being a trans dad. Anyway, check it out. It's on November 4th. All right? All right. At the Marsh, San Francisco. Today, it's weird because, we're waiting for the October surprise, but really the October surprise is, hey, it's FAHM, Filipino American History Month. It's FAHM, where we celebrate our families. It is. It's a lot of people still don't understand or get that it's Filipino American History Month. That's history, not heritage. You can celebrate your heritage and history, but it's really two distinct things. Heritage is what you inherit. History is, well, I guess you inherit your history too, but history is our stories. So today I want to share a column. I'm going to read from a column that you'll find on the Philippine Inquirer site at some point this week, because this October 15th is because the Filipino American National Historical Society designated it and got it in the books in some states. It is Filipino American History Month, October 15th through the 31st. And it's funny because people just think, oh, October, you mean all of October? Well, actually just October 15th through the 31st. Because the first part of October is Heritage Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, and that goes from September 15th through October 15th. So that there's no real dovetail, they call it Filipino American History Month, but it's just 2 weeks. I guess you couldn't call it Filipino American 2 weeks. That almost sounds like Native American. 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks, not a month. Nobody call it a month. And so I can see where a week ago I was in a restaurant and they had a television on, and there was a guy talking about Filipino American History Month, and it wasn't quite the 15th yet. And I said, well, why is everyone jumping the gun? Don't jump the gun yet. but it was a defensive back who played for the Seahawks, the NFL, and he was talking about his last name is Bynum. He's half African American, half Filipino, and yeah, that's a great thing. I'm glad they were talking about it. The sound was down. I just saw his lip flap, but I was glad that people are jumping the gun. They had a celebration in Stockton over the weekend for Filipino American History Month. That's great, but it officially starts today, the 15th. And so I'm still like caught up with all the things that are happening, like between Donald Trump's eruptions and Indigenous Peoples Day kind of coinciding or obliterating Columbus Day. I'm just sort of dealing with all that. And so here's a column I wrote, and I'm going to read this out to you. I call it my read annotation that I'll put up on Patreon along with the column, patreon.com/EMILAMOK. It's called More Trump Hate in October, but the surprise? It's Filipino American History Month. If you're paying attention to Donald Trump, his October ire, he's not just saying America has a genetic problem in reference to murderous immigrants as bad people. Trump is extending his hate to all his dissenters. Quote, I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, Trump said on Fox. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics, and I think it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by the National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military. Of course, he's referring to rounding up critics, regular folks, citizens with First Amendment free speech rights, not just immigrants, certainly not just Filipinos, good or bad. Any dissenter is a target. Now, we have something to fear. Most Filipino Americans know of this kind of talk. Many amongst us are in diaspora, not just for opportunity's sake, but to be free from autocratic rule. Our families escaped the dictator Marcos and started coming en masse to America in the late 60s and early 70s. Those immigrants hear Trump's statements in a different way. They know how talk becomes real. They saw Philippine opposition leader Benigno Aquino, exiled to the U.S., return to the Philippines and get gunned down at the airport in 1983. That's Filipino American history. Asian Americans in general are mostly all freedom lovers. The Chinese left mainland China to flee persecution. Koreans fled to the U.S. to escape the threat of North Korea. The Vietnamese fled communism. Since 2000, more than 188,000 Burmese refugees have resettled in the U.S. And that's just a partial list of AAPIs here now because they sought America's freedom. Now, how you like this? Now comes a man who wants to be president again and says he will round up the enemy within and even use the military. Add that to Trump's other infamous statements where Trump complains about immigrants as poisoning the mood, or rather poisoning the blood of our country. And with 3 weeks to go before the election, what do you got? You have a brazen Trump ramping up the fear, lifting any doubt whatsoever. He is showing off his authoritarian desires to take the Constitution, fold it up, make it his personal crown. His targets are set. Immigrants and the left, the enemy within. Project 2025 will inform and empower him unless voters choose to stop him with their vote. So No October surprise there. Trump saying what he's saying. It's just that he's saying it so clearly now that Asian Americans are hearing it because they know what they escaped. They know why they're here. And they hear Donald Trump loud and clear. It's a clarion call to vote. But the real October surprise, Filipinos discover America. Yeah, really. And to think, we've had Octobers with the campaigning Trump before. You have to recall what happened in 2016. Remember, Trump admitted to his predilection to the sexual offense known as the P word grab, right? Grabbing them by the P word. Well, it didn't make a difference. Still, it was a revelation that spoiled my Indigenous Peoples Day in 2016. And it made me unable to diss appropriately Christopher Columbus, the overreaching genuine. He was a genuine, sailing for Spain for his much heralded and inappropriate land grab of 1492. Now, I did talk about it yesterday, so it didn't spoil things for me yesterday. But anyway, no worries. Filipinos have October 18th, an even better day worth pondering for Filipinos everywhere. Because on that day, October 18th, 1587, the first Filipinos from Asia landed in America. And they didn't grab a thing, at least not for themselves. They even gave the Indians food and clothing as peace offerings to their fellow Indios, spelled Y-N-D-I-O-S. The Filipinos were just working stiffs for the Spanish colonizers who wrote the history. Now, if you're counting, 1587 is 95 years later than Columbus is 1492, but 33 years before 1620, when the much ballyhooed pilgrims with the oversized hats and buckles landed on a rock in Massachusetts and forgot it first belonged to the Indians. Despite the egregious oversight, we still make much ado of those Mayflower folks in November. And those first Filipinos, well, as usual, they're like modern Asian Americans who just don't count. Few make a big deal of October 18th, 1587, but we will today, as we always do around October 18th, we make a big deal of it because that's the day Pedro de Unamuno, sailing for Spain, landed on Morro Bay close to San Luis Obispo on the central coast of California. But the Filipino American National Historical Society does remember this day, and it's the main reason we have Filipino American History Month from October 15th to October 31st. While Unamuno, not a Filipino, is only partially obscured in history as one of those have-boat will travel New World explorers, the Filipino parts of the story are almost totally obscured. I mean, people talk about Unamuno, but they forgot that it was Filipinos doing the dirty work. The turning point came with the original research of Unamuno's logs, published in UCLA's Amerasia Journal in 1996 by Eloisa Gomez Bora, who was a librarian, or is a librarian, or was a librarian. She was a trustee of funds. And she made the case for a Filipino presence, telling the story of how Unamuno was part of a Spanish expedition led by Francisco Galli in 1584. When Galli died, Unamuno lost command of the two ships he inherited after taking a side trip to Macau. He was stranded in Asia. His boats broke down. But Unamuno was able to buy another boat described by Bora as a single-deck, three-masted vessel named Nuestra Senora de Buena Esperanza, Our Lady of Good Hope. Nuestra Senora de Buena Esperanza, Our Lady of Good Hope. And his deckhands and brawn were mostly Filipinos. On July 12, 1587, Unamuno headed for points east and was at sea until the end of his voyage on November 22nd, 1587 in Acapulco, Mexico. But there was a brief 3-day land excursion between October 18th and 20th that turned out to be the Northern California Central Coast. Unamuno sailed with the Franciscan father Martin Ignacio de Loyola, nephew of the founder of the Jesuit order. There were a few priests, soldiers. The logs also reveal the presence of at least eight Filipinos identified as Indios Luzones, or Luzon Indios, from the northern Philippine island of Luzon. That's where Manila is, right? They were jacks of all trades seamen. They were the manpower of the ship. And Bora told me too often they were just left off the logs. But now she saw the captain's logs. And she said, I chose the captain's logs because he did mention Indios Luzones, documenting the presence of Filipino natives. And she said her count provides the proof. Bora counted Indios appearing in the logs 42 times total, 23 times in reference to the native Californians encountered, Indios, but 19 times it described the crew, the Indios Luzones, the Indians from the Philippines. They mattered on Sunday, October 18th. That's when Unamuno, after anchoring off the coast in a place he called Puerto San Lucas, formed a landing party. 12 armed soldiers led by Father Martin Ignacio de Loyola, cross in hand, took to land. On the first day, the expedition climbed 2 hills, saw no settlements or people, took possession of the land for the King of Spain on the first day. On the second day, October 19th, 8 Filipino scouts led a priest and 12 soldiers for further exploration. And it was on the third day, October 20th, that the expedition encountered violence. There was an effort from the ship's barber and some Filipinos to make peace, a peace offering of food and clothing. Bora said it was fine until the Indians tried to kidnap the barber, and that's when a violent exchange ensued. The log noted 1 soldier was killed, but so was 1 unnamed Filipino by a javelin. His blood spilled on American soil. Unamuno didn't stay long. He left by daybreak on October 21st for Acapulco. But the significance of the 3 days, Bora said, it's the unique evidence of a Filipino presence that is too often obscured when historians fail to identify or differentiate among non-Europeans in their crew. You know, it's like, oh, Filipinos, they're dog meat. Oh, we don't count them, right? When it's all inclusive and you see them, you see, oh, the Filipinos were there. They had a role. And when I contacted Bora, she was adamant. She said Filipino natives among the non-white Indios of that era did not write the logs or the letters to the king or any other contemporary documents. However, Filipino Indians were 4 out of 5 who worked the Spanish galleons. They were present, they were there. They were just ignored and omitted. She adds, what needs to be done now is the championing of our history. Because there are others who are trying to pull the Filipinos down, saying, oh, the Chinese. There's something in 1421 that had the Chinese there before the Filipinos. Bora was referring to a much discredited story that suggests China discovered America before Columbus. So it's interesting that Filipinos are still forgotten, unremarked upon, and ignored. We are 4 million strong out of nearly 26 million Asian Americans today. Yet Filipinos were here to America first. They just left empty-handed after 3 days in October 1587. And now, as Paul Harvey would say, you know the rest of the story. That's the Filipino-American history story. Filipinos were first. And every year at this time around, well, we do at the start, October 15th, so that you know that today's Tuesday, the 15th, the 16th, 17th, by Friday, you can repeat this and say, yeah, I heard it from Emil. Pedro de Unamuno had that boat. And he even said it by name. It wasn't just a boat. It was the what's that boat's name? It was the Nuestra Señora de Buena Esperanza, the Our Lady of Good Hope. And the Filipinos rode that boat and they got to America. And although they were working for Spain, they were ahead. They stepped foot. They were the scouts. They were explored. It was Filipino presence first. They were the help. They were the workers. They had no power. But by rights, they were first. At least we should honor them in the history. So I like to read that story of my conversation with Eloisa Bora every year at this time because it means something. Because this is how we build upon this. I mean, now, because I started, writing about it more in the popular ethnic press, and because of Fonz talking about this history, it's out there. You can find it. You can Google it now. You can Google Pedro de Unamuno, and he's not a nobody. He's a Spanish explorer, or he was sailing for Spain. I think he was Portuguese, sailing for Spain. But the point is, he's not a nobody. He was sailing in the expedition with Francisco Galley, who died. But now we have a more complete picture because, Columbus wasn't alone when he sailed. Pedro de Unamuno wasn't alone. He was with other people. And as Bora found with the logs, they had Asians, not Asian Americans. Filipinos, Asians, other people. And it's a record. Now, is it something you want to make into make a federal case out of? Some people think, hey, calm down. Let's not blow this up. No, it's worth talking about because as the Asian American society grows, you look to its antecedents and it becomes more important as Asian Americans grow to, if you count multi-race, to like 26 million. And Filipinos grow to 4 million in this country. It's still a small percentage of the 333 million people here in this country, but still. You say, well, who were the first? When did the first arrive? And the first arrived October 18th, 1587. And it's the reason why we have Filipino American History Month. Thank goodness people who knew what they were looking at remarked on it, because otherwise people would say, those are powerless help, those people. The Filipinos, the Luzones Indios. They might have just said, oh, they're Indians. Just like they downplay the Indians who they encountered. You know, certainly the Spanish didn't think about the Indians when they came on land, and they declared all that area around Morro Bay, which is now Morro Bay, San Luis Obispo, around there. They declared all of that for Spain. And then after spending 3 days, October 18th, 1587, they left on the third day to their original destination, which was Acapulco. And the boat's records, the ship's logs, is the proof that created the history that was written by a Filipino or put together by a Filipino historian just in 1995. And that's how we have October as Filipino American History Month. You know, before they found those logs, they were talking about the Spanish galleon trade. And Bora knew that, yeah, 4 out of 5 of the workers, the deckhands on the boats were Filipinos. But they were seen as unremarkable. They weren't the captains of the ship. Why would you write about people who weren't the captains of the ship? And that's what happens when you have a non-inclusive history. You have too much significant stuff left off. And that's what we've had all along. In fact, I doubt you would hear much of this history in schools unless Filipino Americans brought it up. If there was a number of them say, hey, you should be teaching this history. Oh, well, we could teach everyone. Yeah, that's true. You could be teaching Chinese history and in Native American history, and as well as Latino history and African American. We need all of them to understand how we got where we are today. And that's really kind of the beauty of trying to imagine, how do we get here from there? And you see, and you can experience and imagine the pain and the journey. It really is the exciting story of not just Filipino American history, but Asian American history, the arrival. And, fortunately, we have these 2 weeks, October 15th through 31st, officially as Filipino American history. Like I said, we only have 2 weeks. We call it a month because you just can't say, oh, it's Filipino American 2 weeks. You don't say that. It's Filipino American History Month. Partly, I guess, in deference to the Hispanic Heritage Month, which begins September 15th to October 15th. Anyway, now you know the story. Go out and tell it. Win a bar bet. Say, hey, who is first? The Filipinos or the Pilgrims? And someone's going to say, oh, come on. When we celebrate things, it's got to be the Pilgrims. No. The Filipinos came first, 1587. The Pilgrims, they didn't come till 1620. That's it, 1620. The Filipinos were first, 33 years earlier. So there. We'd have a different kind of Thanksgiving if we knew the history. We'd have a different kind of history. So that's the story. I read the column. The column I'm going to post. First, it's going to be posted on Inquirer.net. I write a column there for the Philippine Inquirer, for the Philippine diaspora. I'm also posting the columns in Substack. So substack.com/@Emil Amok. But I'm reading it, doing the audio, doing these shows. You can see that only, for now, on page. Well, you can see them where you're seeing them now, because some of you are watching this on Twitter, some are watching on Facebook, but we're moving it all to Patreon. Why? Because I just think it's a nice way to, number one, beat the algorithm. Don't you want to beat the algorithm? And number two, not be censored. I mean, and this is also a function of the algorithm. A lot of times you put something on YouTube and they'll ding you for, what you're talking about, for misinformation, it's not misinformation, but and then the algorithm will send things to people to like, to a silo. And I just want to beat all that. And that's why I'm going to Patreon. patreon.com/Emil Amok, EMIL-AMOK. Go there. It's up there on the screen if you're watching. And please become part of this new place where I'm going to put my stuff and where I can put stuff for you. And if you become a regular patron, you get access to all these shows. And if you go Amok, that's what you get. And if you're an Amok VIP patron, you get everything, including laughter yoga. I'm going to do a little laughter yoga here, but a whole session. Plus, and laughter yoga makes you feel good. I do it. It makes me feel good. And plus, you'll get other things that I write, other things that I talk about. You'll get access to videos of my shows, all that if you're a VIP member. So be a VIP member. It's not that much. Go to patreon.com, patreon.com/EMIL-AMOK. Thank you very much. Okay, that's our show for today, but we usually end up with our meditation segment at the end. And I end up with some metta, a little loving kindness, because that's always helpful. And it's how I end the show. But I've recently become a laughter yogi, a certified laughter yogi leader. And I studied with Dr. Madan Kataria. He was in Mumbai. I was here. And he showed me how to do laughter yoga and why we do laughter yoga. And there's really, you say, why? What is it? Laughter yoga is not a comedy. It's an exercise program. I mean, they take the best of deep breathing exercises from yoga and combine it with laughter. And they find that it's a great way to oxygenate the whole body and the brain. People who do it feel the difference. They feel energized. They feel well. How we do it is we just simply take the best aspects of yoga technique, breathing exercises, deep breathing, 3 breaths. And then we do what we call conditional or voluntary laughter. Involuntary laughter is when I tell you a joke. And really, the early stages of laughter yoga, people brought jokes to meetings, and they would tell jokes and they would laugh. And they found that, some people didn't laugh at all the jokes. And some things were funny and some things were not. And some people were offended by some jokes. And then they realized, this is non-sustainable. There have been some studies out that show that it doesn't matter if you're voluntarily or involuntarily laughing. Laughter is laughter, and the benefits are the same. So that made people think, we don't need jokes. We just need to voluntarily laugh. We just need to give it up for the laugh. And that's what happens. You just have to Although it's harder than it sounds, because the the right or the proper form is important. So you breathe from the diaphragm to develop that belly laughter. You tighten the abs, and in comes the breath through the body. You inhale through the nose and you exhale out the mouth. And you breathe in and breathe out, and breathe in and breathe out, and breathe in and breathe out. And then you laugh, breathing in, and then so it's like, hello. Yeah, and you do it for a minute and it really works. So we're going to try this. We're going to try laughter yoga for world peace. World peace for a minute. For 1 minute. Here we go. From the stomach. uh, 103. I mean, that's how it happens. And you breathe it in from the stomach, diaphragm breathing, and it out comes. You breathe in, and out comes. You exhale, and out comes this belly laugh. And the endorphins start firing up, and the oxytocins start going, and all of it, the oxytocins, and my goodness, you feel energized. People feel good, and it makes you more productive. I mean, sometimes I just, try to get the blood flowing, but sometimes I do that and I feel better. I feel ready to do more work. And then the other thing, it's social. There's a connection when you do it in laughter clubs and you do it here with me. You join a group and it's laughter yoga time together. So the social connectivity, but most of all, you just feel good when you laugh. You feel good, and you feel like whether you're at the high or at the lows, there's a connectivity and there's a feeling of resilience that you have to fight off the bad mood, to fight off the stress, to fight off the ill will, to fight off all the negative in your life. Laughter increases the blood flow you need to just take care of all the chores you need. You need about 25% more oxygen to be as productive as you can be. And then you see all these residual things happen. You're happier, you're nicer, you're kinder, you're just ready to take on the world. It is laughter yoga, an exercise program. Anyway, we do this, and we offer it as part of join the Patreon. We'll just do nothing but a laughter yoga session. That's fun. It's all yours, and you're part of the community. All the videos will be up there, And then, of course, as I explain the value of laughter yoga, we go through a kind of mini cool down. And then we do an actual meditative practice, which is just to show some loving kindness toward each other. It's helped me. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Hey, happy Filipino American History Month. We're officially in it now. October 15th, we're in it. Check me out, communicate with me on Patreon. Hey, thanks for joining me. Till next time.